Hi everyone! So I cannot believe it, but it is already time for yet another quarterly Planty Favorites videos. So if you are new here, I like to do favorite plant videos for each season versus like every month. And so we are going to be taking a look today at my favorite plants from this summer. And I try to restrict this to about like around 10 plants that have really just been impressing me throughout the season for various different reasons. And I'm gonna let you guys know up front, it was really hard to choose this time around. A lot of my plants have been doing really well this summer. And yeah, I don't know, it was just so hard to narrow it down. But we're just gonna jump right into it. And I wanna start with a plant that you guys don't get to see that often anymore because I no longer really film in my living room. So once again, if you are new here, I started out filming videos on this channel, always sitting in my living room in front of my regular old Monstera deliciosa. So you guys got to see it every week. I constantly got comments on it. But at a certain point, you just get to an age where sitting on the floor filming for hours on end is not comfortable. And I constantly would get interrupted by my cats, which is why I now film here in my office. But I have been so impressed with my Monstera deliciosa this summer. I mean, look how huge it has gotten. It is just massive compared to what it was when I first got it. Probably, I think it's been almost 4 years ago now. It has been pushing out a ton of new leaves, especially in the last few weeks. And as you can see, I finally got a leaf with a hole in it instead of just slits. And I have been waiting for forever for this. I should point out that when I first got my Monstera deliciosa, it was just a baby. Hardly any of the leaves even had slits in them. So that's why it hasn't really gotten to the level of having full holes and slits on all of the leaves yet, but I was just so excited when that leaf came out with that hole in it. And as you can see, there are even more leaves unfurling right now. There's a new one that hasn't even fully hardened off. They are getting larger and larger, and I just absolutely love this plant. Now, I do occasionally get comments of, why does this plant look weird? I love it when people comment, why does something look weird? And they don't explain what they mean by weird. I am guessing people who ask this question about my Monstera deliciosa aren't used to seeing Monstera deliciosas that look this bushy. And so just so you guys know, there are 9 vines in that pot. It is not just one plant. So a lot of people, I think, are used to seeing a single Monstera deliciosa vine growing in pictures in people's homes up a pole. Also, this plant of mine is not on a pole. Each individual vine is just being held up by what some people like to refer to as a janky support stick. It's just attached to that with a little bit of plant Velcro. That is why this looks like a massive bush of Monstera, but I really kind of like it. I've been debating for over a year now if I should break this plant up. I mean, eventually I'm probably going to have to. I feel like it's just going to start to take up too much space. I mean, it's starting to take up too much space, let's be real. But you know what I mean. But for now, I think I'm going to let it be. Now, I am 100% certain that this plant needs a repot. I haven't repotted it in, oh man, probably 3 years. The last time I repotted it was in one of the first videos I ever did on this channel. So I think we're gonna have to repot it soon. I actually feel like it hasn't grown as much as it could have over the course of the entire year, never mind the summer, if I had repotted it. I just feel like it's kind of slowing down because I know it's gotta be massively root bound in there, but it still is putting out a ton of new growth. I'm absolutely loving how it's looking, and that is why it is on this list. But up next, we have our only Hoya on the list, but I am so excited. So I got this plant back in September of last year, so I've had it for almost a year now. It was just a tiny little baby plant. I got it from Texas Plant Connection. It was actually gifted to me by them for going out there and filming a video tour of their shop. It didn't have hardly any leaves at all. I think maybe it had like 5, maybe even just like 4 leaves on it. It was just a tiny little cutting, but it has really taken off over the course of this year. It barely had any roots too when I first got it. Come on, camera, work with me. What are we doing? My face is not there. There we go. Geez, sometimes technology, you guys, I swear. But this plant didn't have a ton of roots when I got it either, so it's been a lot of time developing its roots, and then it started to pop off new vines. So we do have multiple vines going on now, but it has these tiny little leaves with a little bit of silverish splashing on it. But I love that when the new leaves come in, they get this kind of reddish, purplish, maroonish, whatever you want to call it, shade to them, which honestly is not even reading as well on camera. It looks a little more orange on camera than it does in person. In person, it has a little bit more of a purplish tone to it, but absolutely love this plant. There are super tiny hairs on these leaves that you can't really see with the naked eye, but it makes them feel so soft to the touch. But why it's on this list today is because it has officially bloomed. For the first time, they just opened a few days ago, and they are just these cute little reddish flowers with little orange dots in the middle of them, and it smells like caramel, you guys. That is the best way I can describe it. When I first started smelling it to see what it smelled like, it took me a while to place it, and then I actually went to Starbucks a day later and got a caramel macchiato. And smelling that, I was like, oh, okay, that's what it smells like. And also, if you don't pronounce caramel, it's okay. You can pronounce it differently. That's just how I grew up pronouncing it. Don't make fun of me or anybody else down in the comments. But that is definitely what it smells like. So it smells nice. It doesn't smell bad or anything like that. But another thing I really like about it is that the backs, hopefully you will be able to see this. I don't know how to hold this to where you guys, because there's sap dripping off the front of this. I don't want to put my hand directly on it because I don't want it to get all sticky, but I want you guys to see the backs. You know what? I'll just cut in some separate footage with my iPhone, but the backs of these flowers almost look like they're glowing because the way it happens is like when the petals open, they open and then they curl all the way around to the back side of the flower. And where they curl around gives it this like silver glowy white look to it, to the point that I actually almost prefer how these flowers look from behind than from front. But honestly, you guys, I am just so excited to have a different color flowering Hoya because all of my other Hoya flowers are either white or pink. Except for my Wayettii. My Wayettii is a little bit different, which it was also looking like it was going to bloom around the time that this one bloomed. But it's taking forever for some reason. I don't know why. But when it does bloom, I'll show you on Instagram or Facebook, or if I happen to be doing a video at the time, I will show you what those look like. But I was just so excited about this. And also, this is the earliest I've had a Hoya flower. And by earliest, I mean like in the span of time I've owned a Hoya. I've never had one flower for the first time within the first year that I had it, unless it already was flowering at the time I bought it, which my Hoya Wilbur Graves was already flowering at the time that I bought it. But all my Hoyas that weren't flowering and didn't have any peduncles at the time I bought them, it took well over a year before it actually started to happen. So the fact that this happened in under a year and when it was such a little baby was so exciting to me. So I'm so happy about this, and I just absolutely love this Hoya. Highly, highly recommend it. But up next, I do have 2 Anthurium on the list this time around, and I will say, my Anthurium have disappointed me a little bit this summer, except for these 2 that I'm about to show you, and I don't know if maybe it's because we repotted them at the beginning of the summer, and so they were going through a little bit of repot shock. They're working on spreading their roots. I'm hoping that's all it is, but I just have not had my Anthurium putting out new leaves for the most part, once again, except for the 2 I'm about to show you. But almost every single other Anthurium, except for my Radicans by Luxurians right now, I had noticed yesterday it's starting to put out 1 new leaf, but it's also putting out like 4 new flowers. I'm like, really? But my other ones really have not put out any new leaves, and it's very upsetting, but it made me appreciate these 2 we're going to look at right now even more. Which one do I want to start with? And we repotted one of these. Actually, I might have repotted this one off camera with you guys, but one of these has been repotted. One of them hasn't. So it's not totally a repot issue. It's what I'm getting at, I guess. But this is my, I almost called this a Hoya. This is my Anthurium FDM by Ree Gardens Port. The full unabbreviated name will be up on screen for you. I got this from Fontanimal Plant House while I was at IAS last year, and I absolutely love this plant, and I'm so happy that right now is putting out yet another new leaf so you guys can see how beautifully red and chevron, I guess, is that the correct word for this, shaped, dagger shaped, that's a better terminology there, this new leaf is. I You guys, I am not a fan, honestly, of a lot of anthuriums I see that are super wide and flat sinused. I think a lot of them just look funky, but I think the reason I am really loving this one is because it's so much more narrow. And so this was the second to last leaf that came out, and it gave me this one this summer as well. This is a huge size up. So when I first got this plant, the leaves, there were only 3 and they were like half the size of this leaf over here, which what happened here, I don't even know. This leaf is so like not even remotely shaped or anything like the rest of the leaves, but it has grown a ton for me. It was just in a tiny 2-inch pot when I got it. It's now in a 3-inch pot. It's rooting up super nice. I'm just absolutely loving how this looks. I never would have thought. I'm not a big like long boy plant lover, if you will, but I am really digging on this one. It is killing off one of its oldest leaves since I repotted it, but that's no big deal. Every single one of my anthurium killed off at least one old leaf when I repotted it, but it has continued to grow, which is the main thing. Man, that looks so pretty. That red, you guys, I love it. It has continued to grow, which is why it is on this list, and I am just so happy to have this. It is actually technically 2 heads in the pot now. It was only 1 when I got it. So absolutely loving how this one's been behaving this summer, as well as our next one, which I got this one, it'll be a year ago next week, actually. And it was 2 plants in one, no, take that back. It was 3 plants in one pot, and I broke them up, and one of them, this is the one I decided I'm going to keep. The other one, it's still 2 plants in one pot, and I'm going to sell that one. That one, oddly enough, has not been growing as well as this one, and I don't know why. They're in the same type of substrate. They're both living in my IKEA greenhouse cabinet. No clue, you guys. No clue why I'm experiencing different things, but this is my Anthurium Woohoo's First Night by Ace of Spades, and this is the newest leaf. It's not even fully hardened off yet. I'm gonna have to try to block the light with my hand so you guys can get a better idea of color on these leaves. But this is the newest leaf. It's not fully hardened off. It's not even to full size yet. The last leaf it gave me was this one over here. It is definitely sized up a ton, and hopefully you can see how dark these leaves actually are when the light's not shining through them. So you can see light coming through definitely lightens it up, but this is a super, super dark leafed anthurium. It has the gorgeous, gorgeous red petioles on it. The new leaves when they come in are even darker than this. So they're reddish like this, but super dark, like borderline, like blackish red. And I have just absolutely been loving this anthurium. Gosh, I really wish the light didn't shine through like that, but you can see how gorgeous that is. It's got that kind of iridescent kind of look to it as well, and it is just growing so well for me. So we're up to 4 leaves now. I think we did lose 1 or 2 leaves. Oh no, this one I didn't repot, that's right. You know what, now that I think about it, that's why the other one of these is probably not doing as well, is because I did repot that one and I didn't repot this one. So it has given me 4 leaves. I have lost a few leaves this summer, and also this does need to be repotted. Let me show you. It is definitely getting a bit root bound in there. They're coming out the bottom. It could stand to have a repot done, but it's been doing really, really well, and I'm kind of hesitant to repot it now just because of how my other anthurium have been doing after we repotted them with not giving me any new leaves. And so, yeah, I kind of just don't want to because it's looking so good, you guys, and I absolutely love it. So these are the 2 anthurium that have impressed me the most this summer, primarily because they have grown the most for me. All right, let's see. Up next, oh, you guys, this is the only alocasia on this list. I feel like we haven't looked at it in a while, but man, it is doing like some crazy, crazy things. Let me go grab it. All right, you guys, so this is my oh so lovely Alocasia bambino, and will you look at all of these leaves. Now, I didn't want to bring it out with the other plants that we were just looking at because I did about a month ago discover 1 spider mite on this plant, which means there was probably more than 1, but there wasn't like a bad infestation going on or anything like that. But this plant was the source around this time last year of the spider mite outbreak that happened on the shelves behind my couch, the shelves that are directly in the windows, not the ones that are hanging on the wall. And so I've been paying extra close attention to it this year, But when the spider mite infestation happened on this plant this time last year, it was bad, you guys. It was so bad. We lost pretty much all of the leaves on the 2 main corms. And by 2 main corms, when I bought this plant years ago, it had 2 plants in 1 pot. These are the 2 original plants. But part of the reason this plant is looking so much fuller and better than it did this time last year is because it has 2 new corm babies that have kicked off. So we have one that kicked off down here that has put out 3 leaves, and we have a new one coming in down there. And then there's another smaller one that is kicked off over here that has already put out 4 leaves. So this is about to be a super beautiful, well, I mean, it's already beautiful. Look at that. Super bushier, I guess I should say, alocasia, and it's going to be tiered. That's the other thing that I like about when corms start to kick off in the soil is if your original corms get grown out, which will happen over time, you guys, and I do have a video about one way to resolve this issue. It's not the only way. I will link that video down below in the description for you. But when they start to get grown out like this, and this does happen in the wild too, it's totally normal. One of the nice things about having the new corms kick off is they're going to be a little bit shorter for a while. And so it helps to kind of hide that and mask it. So I do recommend when you're repotting your alocasia, did I call it an anthurium a second ago? If I did, you know I meant alocasia. But one of the things I recommend about alocasias is when you're repotting them, I know it's so tempting to want to harvest every single corm you find and propagate it separately and make a whole new plant. But always try to leave at least a few in your pot. And if you're smart about it, place them at least like at just an inch below the soil line, somewhere close to the top, so that they can hopefully kick off growth and start a whole new plant, because that will help to make your plant look more bushy. And as it does grow out and you start to see the corms looking like this, it'll help to kind of mask that. Now, I'm pretty sure I got rid of the spider mites this time around, but I did, even right before I brought this out, I sprayed it again one more time. But I think we're under control, and I'm just so happy about how fast it's growing, you guys. This is the most leaves I've had on this since the bad infestation, like I said, this time last year. The 2 main corms, one of them's got 6 leaves right now. That is like probably a record for this plant. The other main corm over here, this one went down to no leaves. I thought the whole thing was going to die off at one point during the spider mite issue last year, but we are now at 2 leaves and then 1 unfurling right here. And the 1 leaf up here is actually the biggest one now. And I just absolutely love this plant. And I love too how dark and beautiful the back sides of the leaves. I'm afraid I'm going to rip a leaf trying to turn it around. The back sides of the leaves are on this. And this is like very similar to the alocasia poly, but it stays smaller, which is one of the things that I really like about it. I'm just not the biggest fan of the alocasia poly. I think it's the size of the leaves, but also those leaves get more of a toothed edge to them. Whereas this plant kind of has like, some of the leaves will have like a little bit of a rippled edge, like that one right there, but it never gets super toothed. So I just kind of like it better than the poly, but it gives the poly vibe, just in mini form, if you will. But it is doing so well, you guys, and I'm so happy that I caught that spider mite situation early. And so I've just really been staying on top of treating it. And so I think we're gonna be okay. I did not find spider mites on any other plants behind the couch yet, but I am keeping a very close eye on it. I say yet just because you know how it is. You think, oh, they must have been restricted to this plant. And then a month later, suddenly everybody's got them. But super happy with how this plant has done this summer. Okay, up next we have the only calathea on the list, and that is my Rosa Picta medallion, aka Rose or Rosie for short. Let me scoot way back here so you can see how big and beautiful Rose has gotten, because you just got to see her split screen style only in last week's video, or week before, the last video I did, right? And so the only bad thing about doing split screen style is you guys don't really get to see me holding the plant. So I feel like you don't get a good idea of the size that the plant has gotten to, but Rose has gotten quite large. And I also recently repotted Rosie off film for you. And so let's see, I don't even think it's been, hold on, let me double check exactly when I repotted her. Okay, so it has been 3 months since I repotted her, which is crazy to me because I feel like it's only been like a month. I have no sense of time anymore, you guys. But it took her from a 6-inch pot into a 7-inch pot, but this is a like much taller pot than what she was in. She was in a 6-inch that was only about this tall. And you guys, look how much the roots have already spread. This is what I am trying to tell people when I do calathea videos about how lots of times you will end up having to repot them multiple times a year because they just get root bound so quickly. But the main reason that Rosie is on the summer favorites list is not just because she looks fabulous, look at her, gorgeous, but because of how she did with the repot. She honestly handled this repot 1,000 times better than any of my other calathea have handled a repot. Now, she did already have some of her oldest leaves that were drooping down and kind of dying off before I did the repot because she needed to be repotted. That's what was going on with that. So she did kill off those leaves after I repotted her. No surprise there. But then she hasn't done any other kind of massive kill off at all. I mean, she's still big, beautiful, and bushy. And in addition to that, she's continued to pump out a ton of new leaves. Basically, she didn't skip a beat due to the repot, which is unusual for my calathea. And she didn't behave this way the one and only other time I have repotted her. She threw a massive fit the last time I repotted her. So I am just in shock and awe over the fact that she did not have a complete and total freak out. And you can see, maybe, up in here, you see this leaf right here is a new one that's not even fully unfurled. And I just noticed where, oh, she's pushing out 2 new leaves over here. There are some new ones starting to come in. Right, where did it go again? Right over here, this one, oh my gosh, so hard. Right there is one that's starting to unfurl, and then there's another one coming in back there. So I don't know, I'm telling you, I said it in the last video, I'll say it again. Rosie and I had a rocky start when I first got her, but now she's just like vying to become my favorite calathea. She's doing a pretty good job of it too. If she keeps taking repots this well and everything else, I mean, oh my gosh, you guys, how could I not put her on this list? She's probably mad at me that she wasn't on the list of favorite calathea, and my apologies because, well, look at you. You look so great. Okay, let's move on. I don't really have room to set her down anywhere, so let me go put her back in her home real quick. Okay, so up next on the list, we have my philodendron micans, which is one of my favorite plants ever. And the only thing, I think I'm gonna take it out of its cover pot because it's kind of doing a wonky, trying to tilt forward. Where am I gonna put these things? Can I put that there without it being in frame? Okay, it's doing this wonky like tilt forward thing that was making me feel like I was gonna like topple out of the pot. The only thing I hate about bringing this plant in here to show you is it doesn't look the same in this lighting because of all the light shining through the back of the plant as it does where it normally lives. I wonder, let me see if I can, if I block light with a notebook, does that help? Oh, that's a little bit better. Okay, hopefully there you can see how dark and beautiful and velvety these leaves are. They are so dark and so gorgeous when I'm just sitting on my couch and I look up at the shelf that it lives on behind my couch in my living room. It's just so stunning. Now, hopefully you can see over on this side. I don't know which way is right and left because it's like flipped for me. Hopefully you can see over on that side where I don't have the notebook how the leaves look a brighter green. That's just because the light is shining through them. And they kind of take on like a coppery type color as well because the back sides of the leaves are that kind of reddish coloring, but absolutely love this plant. You all know that, but part of the reason it is on the list this year is because I actually gave it a pretty severe trim back not that long ago. And sometimes when I do that, plants, my philodendrons in particular, my small leaf philodendrons, when I give them pretty severe prune backs, sometimes they throw a bit of a fit, but not my micans. Didn't throw a fit at all. It's already started growing again. And I did also decide to take some propagations that I had done earlier in the year and pot them back up into the top of the plant on this side, because when I did get this plant, it was just a little 3-inch plant. And so when I repotted it, you can see the original 3-inch plant was over here, but it's not going to spread out because that's just not how these plants grow. And I wanted to make it a little bit fuller. So I potted, I don't even remember how many I potted up in here. Let me see if I can tell. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like I potted up 6 cuttings that were just like 1 node each up here in the top, and I wasn't sure how it was gonna go. I've never done that with this plant before, and I was trying to tell myself like I wanted to lightly water the top just around those periodically for the first few weeks, just to make sure that as the roots that were in there weren't like super long. So I wanted to make sure they didn't dry out too much and just die off, waiting as long as I normally do to water the main plant. But did I do that? No, I got distracted, totally didn't do that. Yet somehow these cuttings all survived. Every single propagation that I potted up in there has survived. They are now starting to create new leaves. So over time, this is going to get even bushier. And I was just so excited that that worked out. Now I do need to repot this just because it is in one of these pot liners, and I have mentioned in several videos recently that my plants are not really enjoying these the longer they're in them, and they don't have a number on them for the type of plastic they are. And I think that might have something to do with it. And as you can see, this one shot all its roots down to the bottom. So I want to repot this basically into the same size pot, but just a standard depth. So one that's more like this deep, right? Of a plastic pot. So I need to do that at some point, but I want to wait until these cuttings that I put in here get a little more rooted before I go doing that. But just absolutely loving how this plant has responded to the things that I have done to it this summer. And I also have underwatered this one quite a few times on accident this summer, you guys, and it has had no major issue. We've lost like a few leaves because of that, but all in all, it is still stunning. It is doing great, and it is just really impressing me this summer. All right, up next, I thought I might be able to fit it on screen, sort of, kind of, for you guys. This is a bit of a precarious situation. I'll explain why in a second, and you may not be able to see me the entire time we're talking about this plant, but this is my philodendron El Choco Red. This plant's been through the ringer this year. It has gotten knocked over at least 3 times, once by me, several times by my cats, yet somehow we still look absolutely stunning, except for some damage on some of the lowest leaves that developed when it got knocked over. Now, it did lose several leaves in the process of all those times getting knocked over, and I thought it looked a little funky at one point because of it, but not anymore, you guys. I mean, look at it. Look how gorgeous this plant is. I love these giant velvety leaves. Does have, oh my God, so precarious. Does have the reddish backsides to the leaves when they're young. The reason this is so precarious, you guys, is that when it got knocked over the last time, I was in a rush. I had to be on a call. And so I was trying to just gather up the leca, because this is in leca, and get it all just put back together in the pot, clean up the water and everything before I had to be on the call. And when I did that, I didn't reset the pull correctly. So let me see. Can you see how the pull's leaning right now? So when I do my pulls, I actually put holes in the bottom of the pot. I might have a picture I can splice in here for you guys. I put holes in the bottom of the pot for the support stick and the 2 little prongs that are on the bottom of the pull to go through partially, and that helps stabilize the pull. Well, when I was just trying to rapidly put this plant back in its pot after it got knocked over, I didn't take the time to re-line up the pull into those holes, so it's not in any holes. So it's not as stable as it should be, and that's why when I'm moving it around, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's wobbling so much. I really actually need to take this plant completely out of the pot, with the leca out, everything, and get that pull reestablished. But it's doing so well right now, I don't want to like traumatize it. So I might not do that until it needs like a root prune or a repot. But in the interim, it's making moving this plant a little bit dicey, in my opinion. But all in all, really impressed with how resilient this plant has been through being knocked over that many times, and the fact that it didn't stop it from growing at all, not even once. And it has just been pumping out a ton of new leaves. So over the course of the last few weeks, we had this one come out. Now, you may notice this one's a little bit, not deformed, but it looks like it didn't fully develop, if that makes sense. I hope you guys can tell it's kind of curling in on itself. When it did come out, it did do that weird thing where like one side came out and then the other side stayed curled up for a while. 100% my fault, you guys. I somehow went 4 weeks, I take that back, 6 weeks without doing a leca flush and changing out my nutrient solution. And I only do my nutrient solution when I do the flushes, and then I just top off with regular water, and then every 2 weeks is usually when I do the flushes and then do nutrient solution again. I lost track of time and went 6 weeks. And when I went 6 weeks is when this leaf came out and was a little funky. So I immediately was like, what is going on? And I realized I hadn't done a flush and redo the nutrient solution in 6 weeks. I did that. And as soon as I did that, it popped out this, can you see it on screen here? This new leaf, which is not even fully hardened off yet, right after that. And that also got this side that was still curled up over here finally uncurled. But I think this leaf is just going to be a little undersized because I went too long without giving it new nutrient solution. So don't do that. Don't do that. If you start seeing this on your semi-hydro plants, double check how long it's been since you've done a flush and given it new nutrient solution. But beyond that, I just absolutely adore this plant. I love it. I'm so happy it hasn't gotten knocked over again, and hopefully we continue to carry on with it not getting knocked over so that it can keep looking this stunning. All right, up next, we have a very heavy plant, but making her first trip downstairs in 11 months is my red Maranta. And you guys, look how much better she is looking. So if you are new, 11 months ago, I finally, I'm dumping dirt everywhere. Okay, we'll try and be a little more careful. But 11 months ago, well, longer than 11 months ago, I discovered flat mites had severely infested this plant. I mean, severely. And 11 months ago is when I finally switched to treating with a sulfur spray, and that finally got rid of the flat mites. However, this plant was looking rough. It was making me question if it was going to survive or not. It was horrible. It had lost so many leaves, everything. And now it is just pumping out new growth like mad. Look how stunning those leaves are, you guys. Absolutely love this plant. It is not trailing as much. Let me try to scoot back. As it was before it got flat mites, it was like twice the length of the pot before it got flat mites. But it's starting to trail again now. It's pumping out a ton of new growth. She is so heavy. She is looking absolutely gorgeous. So we are coming back to our full glory. I don't know if we're gonna get moved back into my bathroom yet, just because I'm still paranoid about the whole situation. And obviously she's loving life, living in a north-facing window in my workout room upstairs. Look at her. So I'm not sure. I might wait to move her back into my bathroom until after the temperatures cool down here, which will probably be sometime in October, like late October, November, because the cooler it gets, the less likely we are to have flat mites or spider mites in that window in my bathroom, which is an east-facing window, and it does get pretty hot. It's still one of my builder grade windows. It's not one that I had upgraded yet. It gets pretty hot, and that creates an environment that spider mites and flat mites really like. So I think I might just wait until closer to the end of October to move her back downstairs. But I am just so happy that she is looking so much better and is pumping out a ton of new growth, and I'm having to water her more frequently, which means she is back to loving life, and I am absolutely loving her. Okay, you guys, that leaves one last plant. And quick side note, while I was taking the red Maranta back upstairs, I noticed this on my ceiling. I have no idea what is leaking that has caused this, but guess what I'll be doing for the rest of the day after I finish filming this video? Not happy. But what I am happy about is my Syngonium illusion. I'm not 100% certain on the variety on this one. It wasn't labeled when I bought it, but I think it might be a berry illusion. Super happy with this plant this summer because I did, prior to the summer, I think it was earlier this year, it could have been at the end of last year, transition this from soil to leca, and the plant kind of sprawled out a lot, as you can see is happening right here. It kind of sprawled out and it was just kind of void in the center. And I was like, ugh, this is really annoying me. Why is it looking like this? But I shouldn't have worried about it because it is doing exactly what my Syngonium Glow did when it started to do this. And it is now pumping out, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to tilt this without losing LECA, but hopefully you can see in the center there, it is now pumping out a ton of new growth in the center here. Like that whole center section is popping off. So what's gonna happen is, this looks a little bit funky right now, but as this grows in, it's gonna fill out and make it all bushy up here again, just like it did on my Syngonium Glow. So this is actually starting to take on the same kind of shape as my Syngonium Glow. And this happened as well. It looked a little wonky for a while. And then as this all starts to mature and come up higher, this is gonna become a very beautiful, well, it's already beautiful, but more beautiful, bushy looking plant. It's definitely loving life in LECA. And I mean, that is just so much growth popping off in the center there. And I did forget to do its LECA flash for 6 weeks as well. So it should start to grow in more quickly now that it has fresh nutrient solution. But I was just so impressed when I noticed that. I need to find a new place for this to live though. Has been in my kitchen in my west facing window, but as it's gotten hotter, the leaves were starting to look really faded and I didn't like it, and it was killing off more leaves too, I think because it was just a little bit too intense of light. So right now it's on the counter in my bathroom, which is a little bit too far away from the window, but I just don't know where I'm gonna put it yet. So I've got to figure that out, but I've been leaving my bathroom vanity lights on for it so that it's got a little supplemental light going on. But absolutely just so impressed with how this one has been doing this summer. All right, you guys, well, that is my top 10 favorite plants this summer. I am now going to have to go figure out what's going on with my ceiling and try to get it fixed. Fingers crossed it is not going to be like an astronomically expensive thing to fix. But in the meantime, if you want to help me feel better about my recent horrible discovery upstairs, drop some comments down below letting me know how your plants are doing this summer, some of your favorites. And if you have enjoyed this video, please be sure to click that like and or subscribe button down below. And I look forward to seeing you again next time. Aloha!